Not too shabby. We'll get going here on Hinoki cypress. Great little species to work on. These are a bit wild and ferocious as far as out of sorts, but they'll turn out all right. You just got to stay on top of them. They're notorious for not back budding, so if they grow out once you're there, that's what you got to deal with. But it's a really fun species to work with, and if you can stay on top of them, then they turn into really, really nice specimens. A great little tree, little clump style here. A few weeds in there, we'll get those right out. They're fairly hardy. This is the standard cultivar of, I've worked on Seka Hinoki a few times, the dwarf varieties. Standard, you can see the frond like foliage. Very, very nice. It's actually an alternating leaf structure, so you can anticipate it much like you can elms in that way, or a lot of deciduous that have alternating leaf structures. But we're just going to clean out some of the legginess. With Hinokis, you want to work from the outside in, because the legginess will only be exacerbated if you clean out the inside. And again, it's not going to back bud, so leaving a long growing tip and removing everything else on that branch, much like you sometimes do with deciduous material to promote back budding. There's really not a whole lot you can do to promote back budding, and if you let them grow long, it'll kill off the interior foliage. You can kind of see that here. They're just bare branches. So we're gonna go through and try and prune back to the last bit of green and reform a silhouette and try and develop something that could be a pretty good little tree. This is just a nice little clump, so we're gonna clear out some of those thin spots, thinner branches, see what we can do. If we can find a front somewhere on here. So we'll see what happens with this one. You'll find some is oriented vertically, some horizontally. So when you cut back, if you cut back to horizontally oriented foliage, that's kind of how you do the clip and grow method on Hinoki cypress. And then they'll form these pads of horizontal growth, which look fantastic. There's not really a whole lot to say about them, so if you have questions, let me know, but otherwise, it's just going to be moving through, pruning back. The nice thing is these are very pliable, so you can anticipate moving branches down. You can, if you're a little heavy-handed, as you're reaching in trying to wire, you can break off the growing tips. So applying guy wires is one way to avoid that, and guy wires are really advantageous, particularly with Seka, but with standard Hinoki as well. It's a great method to use. If you expose the roots, it works out better because guy wires can take quite a long time to set the branches. So if you guy wire it to a plastic pot like this, it's going to have to be in the plastic pot for a while for it to set. So plan ahead as far as how you run your guy wires and whatnot, and what you're attaching them to. Hey, buddy. How's it
Oh,
going?
it's your little gate. Look.
Oh, yeah.
What's the
Sorry,
password?
that's in the
You
way.
could like put a lock right here, and it's like remote control. You have to say, "What's the password?"
What's the password?
And then we say the right password. You just press it, and we can open it. Or like you got a hydraulic and a lock here, so it unlocks and then pulls it upward.
A hydraulic gate. You headed to bed? All right. Night, buddy. Love you.
What you doing?
What kind of tree is this? I'll say it louder.
Hinoki cypress.
Hinoki cypress. Look at that. That was uncoached. Thanks, buddy.
Oh, you're doing that.
Yeah, I'm doing a video. Oh, you're not interrupting at all. Oh, you're good. All right. Have a good night, pal.
Good night, Dad. Sorry I ruined your video.
You didn't ruin anything. You're doing great. I'll probably ask to see you next time. Ooh, that's exciting.
You like it like that?
No, kick it back on, please. Thanks, bud. Yeah, starting something. I mean, Hinokis grow really well. They like humid environments, humid climates, and they really just grow. The biggest thing is managing that growth. So they take very well to cuttings, which is good. Soft cuttings. So you can root something like here. Let me take a chunk off. Let me find a spot to cut it. Okay. So soft cuttings like this. They're going to take well to, or even twiggy cuttings as well. Something that's lignified and hardened off, they'll take it as well. And you can also air layer them. They work great with air layers. So you can start Hinokis if you get one good, decent piece of material. You're set. So. And honestly, a tree like this would almost be better to use as stock material, just because of how much it's grown out. But it's not bad. I hope that answers your question. But they're prolific growers. If you just keep on top of them and manage that growth really well, then you're going to have exactly what you want. But if it gets a little bit out of control, it's really hard to tame back. So.
Whoa.
Whoa.
That is gigantic. Mommy touched Mabel's eardrum. The one that hurt.
Okay, can I have a kiss? Good night. Love you, dear. Oh yes, I'll be up in a little while. Sorry, y'all had an unusual night because friends stayed over, so I gotta hop on this. Night, dearie. Try to see how far back we can really go on this thing. of the easiest things is you grab a frond and you see how far back it goes. And you kind of just take it to where you want it. And it's going to look silly for a little bit, maybe a bit pom-pommy. But as soon as those develop and grow out, it's really going to reward you on the long term. Yeah, back at it. Always at it. Wouldn't have it any other way. You do want to keep in mind that you want to see a good dark green color, because if it's that dustier or starting to discolor at all, the tree may not be allocating energy to that particular foliage, and so it may already be in the process of dying off in the back, because they do. I mean, if you've seen Leland cypress, another kind of a similar tree, or arborvitae, you'll once you get past that initial foliage and look back into the tree, you see that there's no, it's just a facade really, and there's nothing on the interior. So it's the same here. So if you see the discoloration already starting to happen, you don't want to prune all the way back to that, because then it won't keep growing. You need to make sure you have viable growing tips to develop branch pads here. Yeah, it's Hinoki cypress, so Chamaecyparis obtusa. I believe it's a false cypress. It's not a true cypress, but either way, solid tree. Really fun material. One thing is, if you have a loose twig, you don't want to pull on it. If it's dead and it's brittle enough, it'll break. But if it's got any type of living tissue in there, it'll peel back, and you can end up doing a lot of unintentional, potentially damage, but either way, it's unintentional, and you could rip off some lower foliage that you didn't necessarily want to get rid of or anything like that. So just make sure you always got scissors in hand and don't get antsy as far as the pruning goes. Yeah, it can be an interesting grow habit if you work with cypress a lot or hinokis a lot. There's a pattern to it, but if you don't, then it can catch you off guard as far as what you may be expecting with it. Um, there are some you'll see certain varieties of arborvitae, and they'll grow completely vertical, just these sheets of foliage, which is really interesting. These alternate horizontal and vertical, and so you can get some kind of like pom looky. But if you prune off those vertical growing ones, it can really form a nice pad. And you can see that's what I'm trying to do if I have the room. If I don't have enough foliage there, I'll keep whatever's there. Um, but if I have the room, I'm going to go in, like here, for example. And one thing you can do is if you grab the bottom portion of the frond and cut that off, then you'll just be left with what's horizontal. Or if you grab what's sticking up and cut it, um, you're just left with the good stuff. So they'll grow a nice pad formation for you. And this one's quite a bit out of sorts. So we'll see what we can. And there'll be lots of moving. I'm not going to wire this at all. And it will go in shade after this to protect it. But things like this, they're definitely going to be wired and laid down to develop as pads. Give them that horizontal look if there's nothing to cut back to. One reason I'm moving it around quite a bit compared to other times when I'll just sit and work on a spot and get that done and move along. So if Hinokis are going to sit, if I sit in one spot on a Hinoki, there's always going to be something else that you can find to prune. And then you end up having just a sparse amount of foliage somewhere, and you realize you've got to take that whole tree back, and you may not be able, or the tree may not be ready for that to happen. So with that in mind, I'm moving it around a little more than usual, just to make sure that I keep even on my foliar reduction. There's really no main trunk. If I take this out, it's just quite the obstruction. Also, they do great with deadwood and gins. So if you take a branch out, like a whole branch, be sure to leave a portion for a gin. They look really good. It's a very stark white wood, and they get kind of a reddish bark to them, so it looks really good. These will just get pulled down a little bit. Front on this thing is a bit tedious. Yeah, three is great. Very similar in its habit. I've never worked with it or with any other cedars, so don't really have much for you. But they don't tend to do well down where I am, so I've never had necessarily the occasion to, but I do like them. And it's a very similar look to the Hinoki, so it's a good native alternative. So I'm all for it. I'm gonna just take that whole thing out, stick straight all the way from the bottom. It's gonna leave quite a bare spot, but these are gonna get pulled down. So don't be too concerned about that. And it gives you room for these to grow up, which is nice because if they grow up, then you can branch select and pull things down and kind of reset it as far as right trunk line goes. So that'll grow out. Gives you a few more options as far as the front.
The girls are grounded tomorrow.
So work through that. Mosquito in my face. So I've done most of the branch selections, and I'm just trying to even out the foliar distribution here, make sure any unusually strong portions are controlled. Maybe that goes all the way back. It just depends on how far we want to take this. And with them being as malleable as they are, I'm not concerned about pulling it too far back because we'll be able to use most of this. Interesting area. Maybe this. It's probably the best front here. With this trunk. Or here. But there's room to pull things up. And again, they're flexible enough. So to pull things up and make tiered branching with all of this here. But it's definitely got to be a clump style with the way that it grew. I don't know if the stock material in the beginning was cut out of the middle or what happened, but this batch that I've got is all kind of clump style as opposed to any form of trunk. Some of them will have a more prominent trunk with than that clump, but for the most part, this is just wild, untamed. We're going to take that off here. There we go. That's better. I'll do this one here. Get some transition of taper. Bring those back a bit. There we go. Yeah, often I think clumps can be tough because it's usually material that we don't see anything else in and be like, oh, we'll make a clump, kind of like literati. Oh, we'll just make it a literati because it's like, well, no, we still need to grow good material to make these, but if it was a little tighter foliage, it might look better. I think pulling it back and maintaining the growth, it'll turn into a much better tree, but it's just going to be an orb. But if you get a really good dense canopy and keep the foliage tight to it, you're only going to see these trunk lines from here. You're not going to see all this legginess unless you open up a window, which is fine, but you're only going to see the trunk lines, so you really only need to find the front for the first third, and then it's just going to be a dense canopy, especially if you pull down those branches. Maybe let them go up a little bit and then let them come down. But yeah, maybe some kind of slab would look interesting, especially on a fairly plain tree. As far as it's going to be a green orb, a fairly plain tree, something of interest that sets the environment for it, the tonality of the environment with a slab or something like that. But I don't want that to be a cop out just because it's a clump style that we don't find the right pot for it. So natural draw would be to some kind of round pot, which would really look good because you can showcase any kind of size you want. But if that's the case, you better make sure that you're spot on with every portion of the tree if you're going to have the potentiality to show it off at any angle. This area is a little heavy, so I'm probably going to finish up with one more pass as far as what we're going to reduce back to. If you have a little bit extra foliage at the bottom, these lower pads, it's not a huge deal because you want them to be vigorous, but you also want to manage that with anything dying back. So always balancing. This feels a little out of whack being long here, But that sets your asymmetry on something, again, that's going to be fairly orbital. If you have one branch going out, setting your asymmetry could be really good. Right? And maybe not straight on like that, but something at a bit of an angle, because you can still take it out if you bring it in and take it out. This side definitely is nice and tight here. That side elongates, but even if you do it from here, which is interesting, this trunk comes up and has good movement. This one mirrors that, and it kind of sets the sweep for it. And then you'll have the background that you can play with, setting your apex high. And then you've got, if you lay these down here, you could really open up to be able to see inside there, but have something interesting to look at the front. I mean, you could always just remove these back ones and have 1, 2, 3 little triple trunk tree with some nice branching. And if you move these trunks up a bit, you could set some foreground, background movement. But then you're destroying, I mean, we'd take all that off. It's a bit dramatic, but it's an option, and it gives you a little bit more traditional tree, but it also gives you a little more interesting tree, right? Bring this way down, drop this back, this comes over, this is your main trunk, and everything's sweeping that way. So, who knows? These are branches attached to this main trunk, so you take off this. It looks a little two-dimensional. It looks a little wacky because you can see everything, but that would be your tree with a few, and there's varied thicknesses in these branches, in these trunks, so it could be really, really interesting. That's something I'll come back to in the fall. Maybe tie those down and look at it for a while and see if I can wire these to where I want. Might be interesting to consider that. We'll see what happens. That would definitely go on a stone, right? Maybe higher here and then it slopes down. You set that right there and you have the branches mirror the slope of the rock. So, all right, that one's done. I have another one. It's getting warm in here. We'll be all right. Right back. I like this one a lot. I just wanted to show the distinction in the foliage here between the Hinoki standard, right? And then you have the Seka. You can see how frondy this one is versus how close together and tight these are. So this is the dwarf variety of this guy. Cheers. Whoop. Lost my chair. Big puff of air. All right. This one's nice. Let me show you the trunk a little bit. All right, some good. Definite, again, this whole batch is kind of clumpy, but much better distinct front here with a good solid trunk. We're going to chase this back. It's a much more dense canopy, so it gives us a little more to work with as far as the trees here. We just need to manage that foliage. Yeah, the brightness of the foliage really contrasts well with the bark. Um, really, just really solid trees to work with. They're very, very nice, and it's a little flaky, but not so flaky like a juniper where it actually flakes off. It stays pretty tight to the trunk, but it's got kind of good striations. It's solid trees for sure. I don't know if I even like that branch. So this one with much denser canopy, I'm really looking for long leggy branches that I can remove that aren't going to impact the overall canopy. Because I can come in and prune way back. And still maintain a nice tree. And unlike the other one, if there's really long leggy branches, I don't necessarily need them because I've got so many solid branches in here. This one, for example, is great. I've got all this foliage here. I don't really need this because I've got so much going on. So that's coming right out all the way from the center. I don't need it. I can keep the other stuff that's tighter foliage and a little bit shorter and let it develop and grow into position instead of trying to use something that's not great and not really where I want it either. looking to separate the pads. Pruning off that upward growth. This may be a tangled mess in here, so maybe we'll get rid of some of the long leggy branches and see what we're left with. You gotta be careful still because you don't want to cut off all the foliage, but yeah. It's nice. Little bonsai ASMR here. Yeah, my pleasure. Always enjoy working on trees and share as much knowledge about stuff as people are looking for. So appreciate you joining in too. So part of the appeal of this one is that there are so many trunks down there. So I want to be careful not to take out an entire trunk. Even if I don't necessarily need the foliage where it is, I may want to be more prudent about that because the intensity and the density of the trunks at the bottom is one really attractive portion to this tree. And if we clear it out so that it's just like a triple trunk, it loses some of that appeal of almost the mystique of the tree, like what's going on in there kind of thing. This one's funky. Do we need it? I don't know. Yeah, there's no kind of rhyme or reason to the different trunks in here. They're all different sizes, they're all different directions, but it really, really works. They don't cross over each other too much. They all have a general movement. This tree did something great. So that's why it's important sometimes to just let a tree be a tree. And then see what it gives you to work with. This is the back right now, so you definitely want to make sure you maintain long runners so that from the front the tree doesn't run away from the viewer. And take up those negative spaces, but not so many that they don't know what to look at because there's so much going on. That was a good point to transition the taper, and then I cut to the next horizontal piece rather than a vertical piece. So now we'll get a nice pad developing there. We'll probably prune it back later. There's a lot going on in here, that's for sure. Oh, I cut the right one, all right. Same thing here. Take the top out. Didn't even really notice. Now I've got a clear front, no competition up top. This will slope down this way. It'll stay nice and tight over there on that side. hesitant to cut off these lower ones till I know exactly where the silhouette's going to be. Take off too much. This is almost the kind of tree that you could come in and shear, but what would probably happen is you'd end up with a bunch of dead tips and you wouldn't know which direction it's going to grow. So a lot of people pinch their Hinokis, so that's always an option, but you really want to make sure that that's the look you want. It's going to create an insanely dense canopy, almost like pom-poms. So if you want something a little more natural, prune it back, direction pruning. If you want the pom-pom look, go ahead and pinch. Yes, it's turning out. It'll be all right. Open up a little bit more. In the center. Really show off that trunk. I kind of want to get rid of these. Yep. There's some stuff to cut back to in there. Get rid of that because this will lay down. Sorry. This will lay down and take up that spot. So those go down also. Everything's going to come down a bit. When you pull things down, something like this, you have to be careful because the shape is so nice. When you pull them down, it kind of elongates and starts to widen out. If you don't want it wide, you pull it down. Make sure you bring it back up so just those fronds fall down, right? Don't just lay it down and be like, oh, whoops, well, that's how it's got to be. You can always pull it back up. So don't forget the look that got you interested in the tree in the first place, but stretch it out a little bit if you need to. Better. This apex will definitely be rectified with wire, but just make sure everything's there. It's definitely got a like ancient kind of haunted woods vibe to it. It is. You kind of disappear and get lost into the back of that. And with the light there, you can kind of see some of the trunks catching the light. Really, really fun tree. Let's see what we got. Oh, where are we? And if you're going to be wiring, you want to leave a little bit of length on these branches so that it's easier to wire when the time comes. It's always easier to wire longer branches than shorter. So just a note, I was thinking about removing that a little bit, but if we need to stand it up for some reason after we move it out, we want a little bit of height in there. Oh, we're back around to the back. There we go. See what we can thin out here. You need a Hinoki cypress? I've got about a dozen of these, clump or upright, so single trunks. If you, my email's on my website, or I can share it here real quick. Here we go. Emails on there. You can check that out. And let me know what you're looking for. I've got some starters, like in little 4-inch cups, so you can start growing one, or plenty of material like this. And if you shoot me an email, I'll send pictures to you and you can check things out, shoot a little video, or even just hop online. We can do a chat and figure out what you need. Also, depending on where you are in the country, you may find them at your local nurseries, to be completely honest and forthright about it all. Just depends on where you are. So here in the South, they're a little tougher to find. You're going to find your arborvitae or stuff like that a lot easier. But if you're in the Northeast or Pacific Northwest, they're going to be in your regular garden center, no problem. Almost assuredly. So Northeast Texas. All right. I'm going to be in Northeast Texas soon, hopefully. So we'll see. I lived in Austin for a while. Central Texas is a good time. But yeah, I think Longview's planning on having me down. And then I've got the Corpus Christi show, the LSBF show in September, which I know is not Northeast Texas, but I'll be going through that way. So got a couple of clients in Dallas that I go to twice a year, so there's plenty of stuff going on in Texas for me. Great spot. You'd almost assuredly, I mean, I have them under shade cloth here, at least 30%. I have a 30% and a 60% shade cloth. So if I've done work to them, they go under the 60. Otherwise, they stay under the 30, and they turn out all right. So I have a couple that are just in the morning sun with afternoon shade, just on that side of the house, and they work out well. So this is just about done. I'm going to take off a little bit on these growing tips up top so they don't take all the energy, and that'll be that. I may even just shear these things because that's just foliage. I mean, there's no branching up there yet, and if there is, we'll go be specific about it. Yeah, I'm usually coming through Texas 2 or 3 times a year, so let me know if anything comes up. It's on the way. This is still a funky spot. I think it's too funky. There we go. Almost there on this one. Probably call it quits. It's been a long day. go. Like that. This is a little thick, but I think it'll grow into itself all right. Maybe that one goes. There you have it. Take that off because this is going to pull down right there. Take its place. There we go. Get a little air circulation in there. Oh, you're good. Appreciate it. All right. Well, I think that's about it. If I go any further, then it'll start to look a little rough. Clean up that knot there. So, I don't know if I can find it. What'll start to happen as you prune on these is you'll get little things like that, and you'll start to just get these wads of branching, and then you just go back behind that, snip that right off. It's then you'll develop from there. A lot of good stuff. It's a nice looking tree. Looks a little different than what it started as, but this will get pulled down. That's still a little tall, and it's level with this one, but that gives it room to develop. Maybe we'll pull it back now. There's a few good spots on there. We'll pull it back now, so we'll drop that down, drop this down. There we go. Get a little bit elevation difference. So that's more the front of the tree. We'll probably open up on this side, keep that tight, and then drop the center somewhere like this. Give it a little movement. A little bit of that, right? We have good movement in the base of the branches and it sticks straight up. So we'll continue it to this side, then pop it back over the center like that. So this side going out, that'll give it some interest with the apex moving back away from the defining branches going this direction. Keep these nice and close, and it'll look something like that in the future. But again, another dense canopy. We probably won't need this one as dense as the other one to hide anything because the trunks in here are really nice. But otherwise, was a pretty good little tree, fun to work on. Had a good time. That'll do it. Thanks for joining in. Bonsai on, y'all.